Welcome back. In my drill I have a small diamond burr and I am starting the process of details, neatening, textures, shading and all the rest of it. We have all the basics, we've got the shapes, we've got some deep carving in places, and now to bring it all together. One thing I must mention, I don't know if you noticed, there we go. That is a quick snap of the final image. I had left off the last leg. Poor Scorpio, never mind. I do sort it out as you can see. So carrying on now, I'm blending the edges with the middle of the areas that I've already engraved, because remember I used a larger burr which didn't take me down to the finer points and the smaller areas, and so this little burr does that very well. It also, of course, I will keep popping back using this burr. Okay, so we've swapped over quickly now to a very small, very small diamond burr, smaller than the previous one, and it is very useful for little textures, which you can see I'm doing now. I would call these decorative features on my scorpion, but I would imagine, of course, that they have a particular purpose in his anatomy. I'm not really sure what, but they really bring this chap to life. As you can see, I am working dry, and this burr is pretty sharp, and of course the decanter is lovely and thick and beautiful crystal. Now let's have a look at how we're doing with this texture. Oh, that looks like rather good fun, doesn't it? Of course, I am using just white tack for this. It doesn't seem to leave behind any kind of residue, which is good, and all it does is picks up the shape. I think that's quite useful when you are doing, for example, a face, a human face. Then you can see the depth of the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, the eyes, etc. Okay, the edges, some of them need a bit of neatening, so this burr is quite good for that, but mainly adding little details of texture and pattern and whatever happens to be on the image that you are using for reference or making it up. I mean, you are the artist, you can do whatever blows your hair back. Perhaps my next Scorpio could be a different version, something along the lines of the butterfly that I did, with lots of made-up shapes inside them. I think we could have a great amount of fun with the scorpion. I think I imagine nuts and bolts and really rugged stuff to make up something like this. One could get quite carried away. Anyway, for the time being, I'm keeping it real. Notice that the shapes I had for the segments in the legs were very simplified, and that is fine. That's all I intended for them to be, and this is the part where I create the correct shape for each segment using this little burr. I do apologize for the shaking. Every now and again you can see the camera shaking, and I did mention it in the previous video, but unfortunately my chair was touching the stand that the camera was on. So another thing to be aware of. Anyway, in my drill at the moment I have got a rat's tail, and putting it down onto the engraved surface first and carefully but swiftly flicking out to create those little hairs. Here I have Dura White in the drill for the moment. Not really sure why I chose this burr, apart from the fact that it obviously makes the engraving a little bit darker, and I was just finishing the edge of that mouth, I would suppose you'd call it. But of course, wherever you put the Dura White, it's going to create a darker area that was previously quite white. Commonly known as a pre-polisher, this burr. Right, back to the little rat's tail, and very carefully, as I say, carefully but swiftly, adding little tiny hairs and details. Take care that you check where the hairs are growing from and put them in the right places. When I say be quick with the hairs, what I mean is don't take time drawing a hair. You know, you end up with a little thick bent line. If you just flick it, it doesn't matter which direction really, is sort of roughly the right direction, but you get a neat, fine little hair. And that really makes a difference. It gives a far more professional look and not a naive drawing. Same as whiskers, of course. Same sort of thing. You're going to have to be fast. A whisker is very, very long, of course. But if you start drawing an actual line for a whisker, you will end up with a consistent width and probably bent somewhere along the line. Okay, here I have a Dura White in the drill, and flicking over the textured areas. Now, of course, what you can see as dots, they of course appear to be sticking out of the glass. That is the whole idea. So the fact that they are actually sticking deeper into the glass, this little burr will fly over the surface and it will leave those little dots nice and white, so they look as though they're protruding even further. Now, while I'm waffling away, I've been putting some interesting variegations of color, or rather shade, onto the top part of the body. Almost like a camouflage he's wearing. Here is a very, very old grey rubber. Because it is soft, it does wear down fast. And you can see I have already turned it over by the shape of it. And it is wearing down very fast on the top. And what we've got to avoid is it wearing down too far, because I don't want to be scratching the glass with the mandrel, the metal mandrel. But it's got a little bit of life left in it, and so being an ex-Zimbabwean, of course, I have to use everything right down to the last millimeter. You may also notice that I could have been doing all the legs and then coming back and doing something else. But I'm doing it bit by bit. You don't have to. There's no particular order that you have to do these things in, really. But I just wanted to see parts of it completed first. For example, seeing the front end of the animal shaded and all the rest of it before I start the back legs, which is just a different approach. You can start and finish in whatever order you like, really. Now you can see I'm back to that fairly small diamond burr again, and now I have the Dura White again. This is also, of course, very good for neatening up edges that might have some chippy bits, and just adding a sort of a gentle half tone as well. This, of course, is the rat's tail again, adding little hairy bits here and there. Apologies for my camera not quite getting to the top. And while I was out of camera view, I finished the very tip of the tail, unfortunately. So all I did for that was use a rat's tail to get it to that very, very sharp point. We'd slowly built backwards from a large bird down to smaller, and then finally the little rat's tail gave it that super sharp point. Dura White here, I am adding some more variegations of shading to the upper shell, and also softening some of the joins, which you will notice more when I use the rubber over those areas. Just one stroke will give you a half tone with this burr. Remember also to run that Dura White, and in fact this rubber burr, at a pretty slow speed. Don't be going down the 20, 30, 40, 50,000 RPM route, because that wouldn't be any good at all. Now I've got some water running. I just felt like it, really. I didn't have to at this point, but I'm up at the business end of this fella, and I'm having to go relatively deep. There are some interesting shapes going on here. It turns the flat basic shape of the segment into something a little bit more 3D. As you can see, creating almost a side effect there. These are virtually like strange looking cubes. And of course the water now makes life much smoother and more efficient with this little burr, which is actually, this one is getting on a little bit now. When you've used them for quite a while without water, they will start to dull quite quickly. I should add to that, unless of course they are sintered diamonds like the bigger burrs that I was using, they were sintered, in other words, with the diamond all the way through, whereas this little burr is just a coating. Of course, this drip feed system that I've got, if you look up the video on setting up my workshop at home, which was during the COVID lockdown, you will see how I set up the drip feed system. It's literally a milk bottle suspended and using a two-way gang valve, which is what they use in fish tanks, and that regulates the flow of water through this. I think it's a 6mm tubing. Anyway, you get the general drift. This is an interesting little burr. It's quite sharp. It's got a flat top. It's like a mini rat's tail without the tail, if you like. It's actually flat on top. Bearing in mind, all these little burrs are dental burrs, so they all have their purposes in the dental technician business of sorting out your teeth and your, well, more like your false teeth, but they all do wonderful things on glass. So there you can see, in fact, now those shapes that were flat, boring shapes have now been given a new lease of life. Those pieces are all quite 3D now, and I haven't even finished with the rubber shading yet. Using this little burr, I am going over some of these dots on the claws to make them slightly deeper, slightly bigger, and wham! That suddenly adds a little bit more excitement to those claws. Back to my little grey rubber that is literally on its last legs. Remember to use a clean dry cloth, just a normal tea towel or something like that, but certainly nothing with any kind of fat or oil on it, please. Here I have a very small rubber burr, slightly harder than the previous one, and it simply creates a slightly smoother, therefore darker shade. Easily picking up the edges of the engraving. As per normal, sign your work with whatever, whether it's your name or logo or some sort of insignia, and I like to put the date as well, or just the year in fact. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this little scorpion. Don't forget to make sure you include all the legs of your creatures. And I'll show you the picture now of the final decanter with all legs. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, bye for now.